The next step, once you decide, what kind of business you've got a business plan, you pick your entity. The next thing you need to do is be concerned about things that are going to be required of you to do. Certainly choosing the right accountant is an important thing. Some people interview 2 or 3 accountants before they hire me. Some people come directly to me without interviewing anybody else. So where's Woody at? I've got a couple of, Woody's in here, another accountant. Isn't that right, Woody? They sometimes interview you and then they hire me.
Well, I said it was don't pay to you.
Oh, I see. That's right. But anyway, so you want to choose your accountant, get your identification number, tell the government you're separate from the business, and you're going to, especially if you're going to employ somebody. If you're a single member LLC with no employees, you're not required to have a federal identification number, because the IRS will look at you as the owner of the business, not as a legal separation. Licenses, certainly professional license if you're need that. Seems like everybody's getting a professional license today. A couple of years ago they put in the contractor's license, so anybody who comes to work on your house now needs a license, as compared to a few years ago when any Joe Blow off the street could come work to you. Now they're supposed to have a license. Self-employment tax, which means if you're in business for yourself, certainly the government wants you to pay Social Security tax on your employment income, either in the LLC or in the proprietorship. Employment taxes. Back years ago, when the government set up taxes in 1913, they thought that people would just pay their taxes. So you make $1,000, the government thinks you're just going to send them, at that time it was 1%, so you're going to send them your $10. And they found out over time that people weren't doing this. So they said, well, what can we do to cure this? Well, let's make the employer responsible for withholding from the employee, so that all your workers, you withhold taxes from them, and you send the money to the government. Well, what happens if you don't? If I want to come to work for you and I say, look, I really don't want you to withhold taxes, and you say, well, okay, I won't withhold taxes. Well, the government's going to hold you responsible regardless. They're going to tax you, make you pay my taxes if you don't withhold from me. So they've got rather severe penalties in the law to make sure that you're taking care of the employment taxes. Otherwise, the employees won't do it. Some foreign countries, Italy was an example, they put in income tax and nobody filed. So if nobody files, there's a whole lot they can do. So, well, you got to get everybody. In the state of Georgia, I'm going to talk about sales tax just a minute, but unemployment taxes are part of this. Naturally, you pay unemployment taxes so that if you fire someone or someone loses their job, they can draw unemployment benefits. So it's just part of the same thing. Sales tax is interesting. The tax is actually a sales and use tax. I venture to guess that everyone in here is violating the law. I talked one time to some state officials and determined that everyone other than the guy who pushes the use tax portion of the law, everyone else, including the commissioner, was in violation of the sales tax law. Every time you buy something on the internet, you're supposed to pay sales tax, use tax on it. You bring it to Georgia, you're supposed to file a form at the end of the year saying, look, I bought something from Dell Computer on the internet and they didn't charge me sales tax, so here's my sales tax, state of Georgia, use tax. Here's my use tax, state of Georgia, so I'm paying you that sales tax. I've written to say everyone in here is liable for that tax and no one filed. Did anyone file a use tax form? No, that's what I thought. Oh, there he is. The one man there he goes. So the government, the state of Georgia is getting a little bit more aggressive on this. A few years ago, they audited virtually all the dentists in the state of Georgia to try to determine the use tax that they were missing, and they did find some, but they really kind of backed off of it again. They cut back on their personnel. They're not attacking use tax as they could. But one interesting thing there, which they don't address that either, if you buy, and I don't know what offhand the sales tax is in Fayette County, but if you, 7? Okay, if you buy a loaf of bread in Coweta County, and there's a 6% tax on it, you bring it to Peachtree City in Fayette County and eat it, you're supposed to send them 1%. You didn't. You used it in a different. Again, that's what the law says. Virtually no one does it, but I'm saying the law is there, and they could come out and get us. So, if they do an audit on you, sales tax doesn't audit, they're going to look for use tax. So I hate to be the one telling you all criminals in here today, but now I've told you that, so I'm going to move on. Property taxes are something we fight constantly too. In good old Clayton County, they've determined that the value of our property fell, so what did they do? They raised the tax rate. what they did to kind of offset that. So, but you constantly need to be aware of what property tax rate they're using on you, and then whether or not your property is really worth that much money, and then fight with the county over it if not. So we fight with the county quite commonly over that kind of thing. Of course, state taxes, we have income taxes to the state. If you do business in other locales, then you've got to do sales tax, state taxes in other states. One client we have who's here in this room, I think we file states in, 37 states on you or something like that, because they do business in 37 states. So everywhere you go, every little entity wants a little piece of you. Professional ball players will pay taxes in about 30 states. Everywhere they go play ball, they got a final tax return and pay taxes in that state because they made money in the state. And that state wants their little piece of the action.